Hey, good morning, you guys.
Good
I got
morning. Can you hear
Tim
me?
and Polani this morning, and I'm over on Facebook Live. So good morning, Keller Williams. And we're just going to give it a minute. I know we're almost to 8:30 for some folks to pop on. I hope you guys had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Let's see, we got Vu. Let me get Vu in the picture here. Very nice. I love it when I have some folks join us. Good morning, Vu. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I don't have my microphone today. I lost what is called a dongle, and you Apple World people, you know what I'm talking about. So I can connect. I've looked everywhere, and so I'm gonna have to order one of those today. I feel good about the fact that I kept that little short thing for a long period of time though. So it'll be okay. I can Amazon that today. And welcome to Monday Motivation. And we are continuing our conversation about the One Thing book by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And we have talked about kind of the setup of that and how Gary discovered that that one thing is really the key to success and focusing on that. So this is very much a focus book. And I want to go back and just revisit how he came up with the question that we ask ourselves about what we're doing and what is the one thing that by doing that, I can have everything else be easier and unnecessary. So the question was born because Gary loves having one-on-ones and conversations with top people in the company. And over time, he would end his calls with what are you going to get done this in between this and next week? And it was a habit that he had. And so he said, unfortunately, not everyone would get everything done. They would commit to a big list. They would get some of it done, but not all of it. And then he started shortening it. Well, what's 3 things you can get done? And finally, out of frustration, he was like, what is just one thing that'll move you forward? Because all the things they had on their list weren't moving them forward toward their goals. They were getting a lot of things done. So the question of what's the one thing you can do this week, such that by doing it, everything else is easier and necessary, was born. And of course, the research from the book. So it's a great question. I have to write it out to say it correctly. So if you need to write the question out, it's on page 9 in the book. Put that up on the wall, put it on your desk, ask yourself that question over and over to stay focused on the one thing, because we're going to talk about one thing today. As we have gone through the domino run and true Gary style is how you think that matters most. And we've got to debunk some things that you may be telling yourself, and they're the lies that keep us from being productive. And so on today's session, we're going to talk about pages 32 to 42. The first lie, everything matters equally, right? Everything matters equally. And I love what he says is equality is a worthy idea pursued for the name of justice and human rights, but you're never going to have equality in the world of results. And the things that matter most must never be at the mercy of the things that matter least. And I think naturally, as we go through our day and what we're doing, we were set up to want to do to-do lists and tasks. Because when we were kids, right, we were set up to say, hey, it's breakfast time. Hey, it's time to go to school. It's time to do homework. It's time to have your chores. And we were told what we were supposed to be doing from an early age. And then that's a habit that we naturally fall back into. So let me just start by you guys that have read this session. What did you think about everything matters equally as a lie? And if you're watching Facebook Live, you can put it in the chat and we'll check on you later. Did you love as an adult that, you know, as you've moved past that, you've got to do this, this, and this, that you started getting some freedom to do some things and be independent, you know, a little bit of a, well, if you get your chores done, then you're going to get to do this. And then, you know, as a true adult, no longer under parental guide, you get to style your day however you want, that independent part. Everything is your choice. Sometimes that can be a little overwhelming when there's a lot of things, right? And I believe that we just give everything an equal an equal measure, especially when it's on a to-do list. We're overbooked, we're overextended, and we're overcommitted. Can I hear an amen from the audience? Anyone feeling like that? Yes, overcommitted, double
Can you
booked.
hear me, Sally?
Yes, I can now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't think it was working. Oh, definitely. We tell ourselves that we can get everything done in the day. And then by the time the end of the day comes, you haven't done anything.
Yes, we are in the weeds, aren't we? And later on in the book, we're going to talk about that and our battery and how to structure that. And I think we are so prone to believing that everything matters equally. We do try to get it all done, Kalani, like you said, and we don't have a clear formula for making decisions. We just get it done. We're going to make it happen, and it becomes how we style ourselves. And we're pinballing through the day as a confused character, as in a B movie, is how he describes us. And the best decisions get traded for any decision because it just feels like you're making progress, and it's that busyness. And everything feels urgent and important, and that makes everything seem equal. Because do people bring you urgent things? You're trying to get something done and you get an urgent message that you've got to take care of something right now. Who has that? Yes, absolutely. Activity is often unrelated to productivity, and busyness rarely takes care of business because everything seems equal. And we do a lot of to-do list, and I think that's something that we were like, okay, I've got so much stuff on my plate. If I could just get a piece of paper, I do this too, you guys. Write it all down, then I can check it off, check, and I've done it, right? But not necessarily do we have to do all those things. Success isn't a game won by whoever does the most. I wrote that one at the top of the page. That's kind of right? So to-do lists are the staple of time management. And even a lot of our books that we get, you know how you're getting, I'm already looking at them, right? I don't know about you, your planner for next year and what that looks like is going to have a to-do list on it somewhere. It makes us feel really good to have that in our task and our time planners and apps for making that mobile. And it's nice to have those, and they can have a dark side to them because they're not what's most important. It says an Australian Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, said, the things which are the most important don't always scream the loudest. Now, who's screaming the loudest in your week? Who or what? Anybody want to comment?
I think it's those emergencies you're talking about, things that come up and people, they want our attention immediately. But for the most part, unless we've got a deal that we're working on, trying to get something closed, or a client we're working with, most of it can wait until in the afternoon.
That is true. We have to program our minds and program our days and how we think about it. It says that high achievers operate differently. They have an eye for the essential, and they pause long enough to decide what matters and then allows what matters to drive their day. And achievers do sooner what others plan to do later, and then they defer it. It's the intent. It's the right way. Achievers always work from a clear sense of priority. And I had a coach tell me one time, and on a coaching call, we were talking about the things that happened in the day, right? So I had a lot of reasons around it. And she said, you know what you're doing. You're putting off because you don't want to do the thing. And all of these things you're saying is your way of of deferring them and not doing them. That's what's going on. You chose to go do that. The choosing part is the word, right? You chose to go over and put out a fire that could have waited because you would rather do that and get that charge in the moment that I help someone than to do what you're supposed to do. Did any of you ever do that besides me? I mean, we're human, right? And if you love helping people, you're like, yes, I need to help them. They're a damsel in distress, and it makes me not have to do the thing I don't want to do. So to-do lists tend to be long and success lists are short. I did have another coach have me one time, and this is a really great exercise, is when we're going to talk about the 80-20 rule. Put what matters most on one column and what you would like to have done, or it could leverage on the other column. And one side gets done every day, and the other side might move to the next day. It's not really that important, but it's something that you would like to happen. So that's one way to start categorizing what your have to do list is, right? So how does a successful person to take a to-do list and make it a success list? Well, let's look on page 36. And this young gentleman named Duran in the late 30s was in a group of managers for General Motors, and he actually took, if you guys have heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Pareto was in Italy and discovered that 20% of the residents, the citizens, owned 80% of the land. And then at this point in time, when they were talking about investigating faulty machinery at General Motors, then Duran looked at that and said, hey, you know what, looking at all this other data, that is something tried and true. That is a kind of a law, right? That happens over and over, that 20% of your effort will give you 80% of your results. And so what you focus on matters. And he named it the Pareto principle. He didn't name it his principle because it was first discovered by Pareto. And then it says that minority of causes and inputs or effort usually lead to the majority of our results, outputs, and rewards. So why is it so stinking hard to do that then? If we know that to be true, do you think maybe it's we haven't done it enough to go, wow, we see that that's for real? It says, don't get caught up on the numbers of 80-20. It could be that, that 90% of your results happen from 20% of the effort, or a 70-10 or 65-5. But understand that not everything matters equally, and that's how you move forward. So on the end of the page, on page 38, you see what he has said is your to-do list and your success list. And he's changed it. Could do, should do, should do. So you can make your list and then categorize it by that. And then your success list is going to be all your should do's. And Gary says, if you really want to go extreme Pareto, that's where the one thing comes in. Out of that short list, one thing's going to rise to the top as the one thing that if you do that, everything else is going to happen because you're going to focus on it. And that you can be even smaller for the vital few of that list. So you'll see here, the bottom of the next page, all the things, 20%, the one thing. So it may take a little bit of time to think and reflect, but you first of all have to have your goal, right? And what you want to accomplish to figure out what your one thing is around that. And you can have a one thing around a lot of different things. It could be weight loss. It could be financial. What is the one thing that you could do such by doing it that would make everything else easier and necessary around your health, around your relationship, around your finances? So some big ideas around the 80-20 and focusing on what matters most. Go small. Don't focus on being busy. Focus on being productive. Allow what matters most to drive your day. Then go extreme. Once you've figured out what actually matters, keep asking what matters most until there is only one thing left. That core activity goes to the top of your success list. Then say no. Whether you say later or never, the point is to say not now to anything else that you could do until your most important work is done. So that might be saying no to going somewhere, or saying no to a person, or all the things that derail your day from getting your success list done and what that looks like. So don't get trapped in the checkoff game. If you want me, okay, I got to ask. And you guys watching online, you can totally say in the chat, have you ever made a to-do list and put something on it you've already done so you could check it off? Okay, I have. Why? Because that made me feel good. Oh, I did 3 things already. I'm gonna make my checklist start with those and get to check them off because I've already done them. Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone. I'm glad I'm not alone.
Allie, this is Boo.
Don't get trapped in the checkoff game. If you believe things don't matter equally, if you believe things don't matter equally, we must act accordingly. So do you believe that things don't matter equally?
I do.
Yes, that's a yes. This is a great way to start our week off as we look at the week and how we can have a better week than we had last week. We can't fall prey to the notion that everything has to be done, that checking things off our list is what success is about, and we can't be tracked in the game of the checkoff list. Sometimes it's the first thing you do. Sometimes it's the only thing you do. And regardless, doing the most important thing is always the most important thing. So what is your week going to look like? Does this give you a bigger picture of how you could style what you're going to do this week differently?
Sally, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, I was just calling. I was just wondering how maybe some of the agents or how you would recommend using the command tasks, but because now I know that I'm still new as an agent, but going through the tasks that are on there, what happens is they all just kind of build up and I'm just overwhelmed by how many tasks I still have and how I know that there's priority functions on there that you can add to it, but I was wondering if you have a strategy you would use to help to prioritize through there.
Well, I appreciate you asking that because if you like checking things off your list and then you see a big list on command, that is overwhelming. And some of that's going to be follow-up and some of those are going to be tasks. So your one thing in finding leads is getting out there and talking to new people, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I mean, I'm just saying that's usually what the one thing is for most real estate agents is that whatever they're doing, the bottom line is going out and finding more leads. And putting that in your schedule, I think that, if you can sort those tasks related to the most important thing, which is communication to your people and finding new leads, those are the things that you would want to do first. So I don't know how many tasks you've got checked. For me, I have to keep it simple or else I get lost in all of that and want to check them all off because it shows up that I've got things past due and I don't like that. So
Yes, I would agree with you.
it could be that, you have to sort through the things that matter most and put the ones that you need to get done. I don't know what kind of tasks you're setting for yourself. But definitely it is a way to make sure you have a call list prepared or a contact list prepared by putting people in and reminding yourself on a smart plan to do that. So it's putting that in your calendar to take care of that first. I like that you've got an order to what you're doing. I just don't know what's all in your checklist.
Thanks, Sally.
You're welcome. Anybody else got a comment for Vu around that?
Can he repeat it? I'm sorry. I'm working with clients and texting, so I missed.
No problem.
Oh,
Hi,
you're gonna
Adrian.
love next week's session, Adrian. It's about multitasking. Okay, Vu, go ahead and repeat it.
I already know. Yeah.
Hi, Adrian. I was just wondering what strategies you used with command and the tasks, if you use it, on how to prioritize through that, because I know for me, it just kind of builds up and I have just a ton of tasks each day, especially if I go past due with them. So how do you stay organized with prioritizing?
Well, I mean, I time block. So my mornings are time block. That's why this is unusual, but because we didn't meet over the weekend, it's kind of something I need to do because it's a listing. But I'm not as good with the tasks. So when I time block my mornings, one of the most important things that I have to do is do my DTD2 and do my power hour. So that is my number one priority. And so
DTD2 is do the database too, Vu, where she's going through all the people in her database and reaching out to them by the letter of their last name.
Yes, thank you.
I'm happy to share that information for the power hour and the calls that I'm on. But as far as the tasks, I mean, you can just put it in. You can even,
Hello, William. It's Monday morning Zoom.
You guys, Don't forget to mute if you're talking.
So, okay, sorry, that actually distracted me and I apologize for that. If there's something else I need to do, you can block that time to look at your tasks, whether it be super early in the morning to know how to plan your day and then have it blocked when to do the tasks that are in command. That's how I would do it. And then I put stuff in my Google Calendar. It's easier for me to follow my Google Calendar, but it's more of time blocked of what I need to do. So that's how I would do it.
I like that, Adrian. And Vu,
Thanks,
I do
Adrian.
think that you're on all the tasks that you have, start looking at what those are. If they are something you can leverage to someone else, but definitely prioritize the ones that you need to reach out to, where you're going to be getting leads, new business. That's a focus to really kind of hone in on if you take all those checklist tasks, what's the most important ones that will, if you do that everything else will be unnecessary.
Mhm.
Thank you to you both.
Sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. So don't forget, we're going to talk about multitasking next week. The 6 lies that we'll be discussing are: everything matters equally from today, multitasking, a disciplined life. How many times have I said that I need to be more disciplined? Willpower is always on will call, a balanced life, and big is bad. So there's a lot of lies lying in those 6 things that keep us from the one thing and from focusing. And any other comments around the 80-20 principle? Have any of you seen that happen in your world, where you focused on something and you just focused on this one thing and you had, it doesn't have to be real estate, it could be anything, had results?
Mhm. I like where they say go small to go big.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. I mean, I think when you first learn about it, if it's not something that you normally do, it is a change of your mindset, because we are so scattered, or at least I am. I'm speaking for myself. Obviously, multitasking is not good, because we really cannot do anything well if we're going to have our minds in so many different places. So to go small, we're really focused in on that, whatever that thing is. And I can tell a difference. So when I've really focused on my for sale by owners, I did a whole lot better than when I'm trying to switch things up. You really need to stick with that one thing.
I like that. So you get time on task over time, not starting something and then not getting instant gratification and then moving on to something else because somebody else in the world that you heard was doing this thing over here. And you're like, because I do that. I get bored too. So I love that, Adrian. It's keeping that task and time on task over time on what you selected to see the results and giving it time to show up, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it does take time to get results sometimes, and just follow the process. It's about the process, because it does work. And I'm speaking to myself.
No, I know, me too. Like, I love every bit of this. Going through the Millionaire Real Estate Agent helped me. So I appreciate you allowing and showing up, because this helps me on a huge level, just going through the material with you and this being real about it. Because if we don't look at what we're doing, on the daily and the weekly, then we go back into our old ruts and our old habits and our patterns. We've got to make new patterns in our brain about how we do things. So I love that. Anyone else have a time where the 80-20 rule showed up for them in some part of their life?
Sally, can you hear me? This is
I
Tim.
can. Hi, Tim.
Hey, how are you?
I'm
Oh
good.
man, I'll tell you, the 80-20 rule is so prevalent. I never heard it called the 80-20 rule the way the book is describing. So I'm kind of following along. Sorry, at a disadvantage, but I will say it looks like for me, I've always put that balance and scale in my head as a high payoff and low payoff activity. And so I always focus on analyzing what I'm about to do on that checklist you're talking about and say, is this a high payoff activity or low payoff activity?
I love that.
So is this something I want to accomplish within that 20% of the time, or will this create an 80% impact for that 20% of the time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to look at everything and the choices that you're making. Right? I think that's a great way. And it's the same, it's exactly what we're talking about. So thank you for sharing that. What is this, a high impact or a low impact? Because we know that, I mean, the word priority is just, we think we can do everything. So there's all you could do, all you could have, all you could know, and you're never going to have all of that all at one time. So you won't be able to do everything. Your time is limited. You won't know everything because life is too complicated. And then you won't have it all because life offers too much. There's too much to have. So you have to make your choices as how to get where you want to go. And everything is a choice on what you do and what you have. So I appreciate you sharing that, Tim. And prior means first in Latin. That's what I was looking for on priority. And you're working from a clear sense of priority, Tim, that by what you just said, that how you look at things.
Would you like an example, Sally? I have one for you.
Yes.
Wasn't me personally, but many years ago in officer training, we had an individual that could not pass his sit-ups within the amount of time given, which means he would not pass officer training and wouldn't get commissioned. So his one thing was, I have to get better at sit-ups. And during the day, his focus was every hour on the hour, he got on the floor and did as many sit-ups as he could. So
Okay.
he basically, that was his one thing, his one focus. And in order to get that, get rid of that 80-20 rule for him, he made a rule that's how he would take care of it. That was his way of getting at that goal. He passed, he was an officer.
hyper-focused.
So yeah, he retired a couple of years ago.
And so he got his commission, right? He succeeded.
Oh yeah, they were getting ready to tell him leave. They would boot him out.
Oh, wow. He had he had a lot of pressure. And so, I mean, that's all, it's his life was.
He had
eating
one
and
thing.
breathing sit-ups. His life was eating and breathing
And-
sit-ups all day.
It was because, if that's the one thing that's going to kick you out, of course, they've got so many other things they pile on your plate
Oh,
on
yeah.
purpose while you're in training that, if that's the one thing that's going to kick you out, then that's the one thing you need to concentrate on above
Yeah.
all else.
That's a great example, Pulani. And I bet there was a lot of those types of things in the service as you went through it.
And then us, of course, is because we were in what was called a flight, and it's just a group of people that are together. We all got down and did sit-ups with him just for encouragement.
I love that. I think that's where it's really great. I mean, real estate's hard too. So, talking about what we need to do to be better and making a priority list is going to help us to get through this crazy market that we're in and all the things that are going on and getting listings. And congratulations on saying that you're working on a listing, Adrian. So that's awesome. So you guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me today, and let's make our success list for the week and work every day at the one thing that we could do that such by doing it, everything else is easier and necessary. And what does that mean for you this week? I don't know if it's sit-ups, but whatever it is, then it's your one thing, and it's the thing that you have to get done every day. Make it the top of the morning, right? Guys, I can't wait to hear about next week how you've done, and we'll talk about multitasking next week. Very interesting. So I'll see you soon. Have a fabulous week.